This particular lesson is focused on zero trust networking. A lot of organizations start the journey of zero trust with network security. And this is categorized in different ways. Let's go talk about these one by one. The first point is network segmentation. And this is something the organizations have been doing for very long. In a zero trust approach, networks are segmented into smaller networks. And these smaller networks are for specific workloads. Each segment or a network will have its own ingress and egress control, and this is done in order to minimize the blast radius. The next point is about threat protection. It's paramount that you have cloud native filtering and also the protection methodologies for known threats. Talking about known threats, there are unknown threats as well. Unknown threats are the ones that are coming with zero-day vulnerabilities, and these usually have unusual patterns in the traffic. The ability to detect such attacks depends on and how well they are identifying what's normal and what's not. Your defenses should be constantly learning and also updating such patterns as your businesses evolve. Encryption. It's important to have internal traffic encrypted as well. You need to enforce HTTPS only communication from your internet-facing web applications. So you do that by redirecting the HTTP traffic to the HTTPS, possibly using a solution called as front door. If you got remote employees or remote partners connecting to Microsoft Azure service, then I would suggest using an Azure VPN gateway, and specifically in that, you would turn on encryption for any point-to-site traffic in the Azure VPN gateway service. If you got any Windows or Linux services, then the suggested approach is to use an encrypted communication using a Bastion host. The fourth point, which is about network segmentation. So once you have accomplished the top three objectives, which is network segmentation, threat protection, and encryption, you would look at the further objectives, which is the network segmentation. And that means that if you got a virtual network, you might want to add multiple subnets inside it. And this is where you will be hosting different components of an application. You would apply network security groups to allow traffic only from the subnets that have an application which is identified as a legitimate communications counterpart. Then there is threat protection. Threat protection these days is identified with machine learning applications or machine learning based threat protection and filtering with the help of context-based signals. You would be using different kinds of services in Microsoft Azure like DDoS protection standard, and that will help you to constantly monitor your Azure hosted application traffic, and indirectly in the background it will use machine learning based frameworks to baseline and detect volumetric traffic floods. Finally, encryption. It is recommended that all the traffic is encrypted. So you would encrypt the application backend traffic between the virtual networks. You would encrypt the traffic between on-premises and the cloud as well. And the mechanisms that you will use here is mostly using a site-to-site VPN over express route, or you can also use an IPsec transport mode for express route private peering. Well, these are the 6 main items that the network security engineers or the architects would have in mind when it comes to zero trust in the area of networking.